about that. And
Hmm.
one thing that you had said that brought up a real good point too, when you were talking about when, your stepdad would meet, you with your father and you
Hmm.
wanted to give your stepdad a hug
Yeah.
but I guess not knowing how your father would feel. And that's something I think as adults we need to be, I guess, more kind of think about more because what is wrong with that? That it doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that that other person, whether or not it's a, a mother or a father, but since we're talking about fathers, it doesn't mean that that other man is taking your place.
Hmm.
And I think it is really important that after someone split, again, for the love of the child, this is what we're looking at. And again, I'm a person about we all have to do our own internal work. So
Yeah.
wherever that's coming from, in order for us where that won't be an issue, we have to do our internal work
Absolutely.
because, your ego is telling you, oh, somebody else loving my child and they calling him daddy and this, that. No, it's not that. But if each of us are doing our own internal work, then we'll understand that that's not what it is. And then also figure out where is that coming from. Because sometimes I
Absolutely.
think society put a lot of stuff on us. It's like, oh, step parents and in-laws. I never understood that. Why everybody have to be an enemy anyway. I never understood
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's
But
funny that you say that because, again, as parents, I started looking at that when I came up with changing narrative. There are so many things that I looked at and I started questioning, why do we have to do this? Why are we doing this? I always noticed that there were movies and there were commercials, and even in my own family, even in my circle, I always noticed that every person that got married, especially men, every man that got married, it was almost an automatic assumption that the wife was supposed to fall out with the in-law, with the mother-in-law.
yeah.
The son-in-law supposed to fall out with the father. And the same
Mhm.
thing with blended families.
Mhm.
I never understood how if I buried a child with you, this is something that I've always taught, just people in my circle or people who ask for advice. If you laid down with this person and chose to have a child with this person, you've lived with this person. I think the peon said on here, or you're living together. If you've chose
Mhm.
to live with someone, you've buried a child with this person, you've married this person, just because that relationship did not work out, it's amazing how all of a sudden all of the wherewithal as a parent goes out the window. All of a sudden, that
Mhm.
father loses all credibility. He loses all of his skill and his intellect to be a father. So now all of a sudden to that mother, and again, some but not all, there's no absolutes. There's always this narrative that the new woman that you've brought into the saddle is this hell-raising, abusive woman that really doesn't want to have anything to do with your kids. So I've always questioned, why would you lay down with me? Why would you have a relationship with me and now totally dismiss if I had the child with you, if I've been with you, clearly I know what I'm talking about. Clearly I know something about being a father. If you've wrote me off as being the best man of the year, etc., simply because we're not together anymore, how am I now stripped of that title? You
Yeah.
got to imagine that I'm going to have a woman in my circle that is going to be the same type of woman that you are. She's going to be respectful to my kids, especially with me. I've always made sure that priority number one is my children. I'll be fine. I will be just fine. I will be able to take care of myself if this does not work. But the one thing that I make sure that you know from the beginning is the safety and the priority of my children. And with that being said, if I do turn around and allow you into my life, that means that I'm allowing everything that comes with you. By the time I give you that responsibility, I give you that reign, I give you the other part of the saddle. That means I've interviewed you enough to trust your leadership, your skill, your morals. I trust you with my children. Now, that doesn't mean that you're completely done, because you still have to learn and grow. We're still learning and growing.
Exactly.
But you mentioned also, that's where the communication comes in too, where I think couples have to sit down with each other and not be afraid to bring up those uncomfortable conversations. Like, hey, you know, like, for example, my mother had this conversation with me when she got married. She sat us down about a month in, and she was like, hey, you know, it wasn't just this big conference, but it was just a casual conversation around the kitchen while we eating dinner. Like, hey, I just want to ask you, you know, how are you doing? You know, how you think about me and mommy and Mr. Tim, you know, being married? You know, is everything okay? Do y'all feel okay with the situation, with the setup? And she told us the one thing. She said, do not feel like you cannot be honest. If you're not liking it, if you have issues, if, you know, something is not your cup of tea, speak up now. That's what families are supposed to do. You're supposed to put it on the table and let's work through it, because we're not going anywhere. So she allowed us the opportunity to say yay or nay. Yes, I like it. No, I don't. I don't like when he sends me to bed early. Or I don't like how he, you know, he doesn't let me drink any Cokes anymore. I don't like that. But those are all workable things, because as children, it's real petty. As long as there's no abuse, with children, it really is minute. It's really things that, well, I think he's mean to me. Well, how is he mean to you? You know, and it really turns out to be you're having just a little difficulty allowing that individual to be in the space that your father was in. So unfortunately, that's just something that again comes with time and communication.
This is